Before the exercise that you did in your book that inspired me to do that same exercise of writing a letter to money, whenever I felt heavy about money, the best tactic I knew to feel good about money was to give it away. Pay for somebody behind me at Starbucks, donate money. It never ever feels bad to give money away. It's just money always feels good when I'm giving it away. In the book, you talk about this. You talk about the idea of contribution and giving and so on. Can you just go over the idea of a vibrational bank account? What is that? How do you leverage that?
Oh, that's a very kind of rational question about a very kind of very big idea.
I told you I was going to toe the line between rational and the woo on this, so I'm trying to trying to stick the
nice
landing.
One. It's a nice attempt. So a vibrational bank account. This is right towards the end of the book, and I got this idea to start asking money. It's the only time I asked a question. I said, "What is the new currency?" I don't know why I asked it. It makes more sense to me now, but I wrote some additional chapters, and this vibrational bank account is what came through, and it was kind of like a way of understanding, I think, the inner workings of manifestation, really. So if you think about bank accounts, you can have a bank account that's in credit, and you can also have another bank account that's in debit at the same time, and they don't actually cancel each other out. You can keep putting money into the one that's in credit, and it doesn't get sucked up by the one that's in debit. So I think it's a little bit like that this vibrational bank account, if you do good things, if you feel good, if you're most of the things that we sort of know as human beings are good, you're kind of adding credit to your vibrational bank account. And if you do things that are harmful, I think the way we can put it really is to say, if it's harmful to life, so harmful to other humans, harmful to animals, harmful to plants, if we're harmful to life, then you start to build up this debt. It talks about life positive. It's really hard to find a good word for it. Like if the actions you do and the thoughts you have are supportive to life, then you build credit. This is all inner state stuff. The thing that's important about this is that credit account is like a drawdown account for the results that you want in your life. So whether you want to, you want a new girlfriend, you want the house in the Dominican Republic, it can be anything. You want some amazing experience. If you like, that's kind of like your manifestation list, your wish list. And that credit is the drawdown that can be turned into cash, if it's cash that you need, but it can also be turned into houses and children and all the good things in life that we want. And look, we have to be really careful, again, not to get into beat up territory around this. This is a very flexible, very expansive idea. It's not something it's like, oh my goodness, now I'm in debit. Oh, help, I'm going to destroy myself. That's a really bad place to go. But we all do things that are harmful to life. And so, we all have some debit balance, but we don't want it to go too low. If it actually goes too low, life becomes unsustainable. That means you die, basically. And, really. That doesn't mean you get killed in a horrible car accident. It's more likely, you get chronically ill and, you have a heart attack or whatever. It's just, if your life is consistently, and look, many people don't know that what they're doing is harmful to life. They eat food and they have behaviors and they buy things. As consumers, we're all harming things a lot. But we have to live with a certain amount of debt and a certain amount of credit. But it gives a kind of direction, like, oh, well, if I build my credit, it's a motivation to generally be a good person, not like a boring good person, but actually genuinely enjoy your life, feel fulfillment, experience joy, more freedom. These are the kinds of inner behaviors that create more credit. So the things that we long for as human beings, inner peace, joy, love, beautiful families, relationships, all of these things, these all build your credit. What's useful is that from time to time you have an emergency, like you really need some money quickly now, or you're in hospital, you've had an accident or something, you need some healing now. It helps sometimes to understand why some people get that, and for other people it's a real struggle. I've worked a lot around this for many years because I was trained in healing. And I've seen the people who got healing and the people who didn't. You always ask the question, why did that person not make it? Why did that person, why did it work for them? And look, I can't sit here and say 100% I know this to be the case. I would say I'm always in the testing of these things. But there's something in this vibrational bank account that is a very kind of light, understandable way that helps us to orientate towards beauty, goodness, joy, good things in life, and orientate away from behaviors that are actually harmful to yourself and ultimately harmful to others.
The key to life, it isn't money, it's happiness. And when you measure how happy you are, you actually become even more happy. Our friends at GoBundance, the Tribe of Millionaires, use a very specific tool to measure their happiness. It's called the Life Happiness Index, and you can have it too. Go over to GoBundance.com/LHI and take your Life Happiness Index assessment. You'll rate yourself in multiple categories on exactly how happy you are and get a custom output for you specifically that you can use in developing whatever goals you have for your life. GoBundance is the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. And the tool GoBundance members use at the base of all of that is the Life Happiness Index. Get out there and grab life big. If I want to apply if I want to apply further principles, if I want to learn from what you've taught in this book and what you teach in your practice. So, okay, I align with, I would love to own a house here. Leave it there. But at a certain point, and maybe I'm being way too specific, I got the impression, or at least I read in the book, you know, ask for what you want. If it's 600 grand to buy a house, ask for 600 grand and stay aligned with that. Don't send different messages. Don't send mixed messages. Just ask for 600 grand. How do I do that while maintaining sort of a relaxed, a relaxed posture? The idea that I would love to own a house. Like, at what point is it okay for me to, or is there not, or am I thinking of this wrong? Like, help guide me. And I know a lot of people listening will be on that. Like, okay, relax, manifest, feel good about what the future state is. Makes sense. But then, where and how do I ask for it? What do I do then? What do I do next?
It's actually a really interesting question, because at one level, when you said, I'd really love to buy a house here, in many ways, you put that request out at the same time. Can you see? It's like you buying a house includes, well, it might be 600 grand, it might be 550, it might be that somebody gives it to you. Who knows? Like, there's all kinds of possibilities.
Sure.
So there's a really tricky art, because, you know, whether it's buying a house or in business, where I find, you know, we can't ignore our responsibilities. So if there may be something that really has to happen, it might, in your case, if you don't buy a house, in the end, you'll go back and you just don't have a house, and you're disappointed. But in some situations, like, well, we've actually got to pay the bills for the business. We've got to, whatever it is. So we actually have to get results. And that's where I think the real learning ground is for everybody. And I would say that that's a very kind of crunchy place. Each time I need to expand my capacity, that's where the challenges come. It's like, how do I actually do this? So I think that each person needs to find their own signature, if you like. It's like the quality of your relationship. Like, no two people have the same sense and signature of the relationship with their partner. It's rather like that with money. It's unique. But for me, there are a few things to watch out for. So you could really easily do, and what I would probably do is say, you know, please bring me 600,000. But what tends to happen is then, you know, you get 20 grand, let's say, or 50 grand somewhere, but you keep asking for 600,000. This is people do all the time. They never actually count that they've got some of it. And that's very confusing for the system of money, and it tends to leave you in a place. I've seen people literally, I had somebody recently, I think, and she said, oh yeah, I really want to buy a house, but I don't have the deposit yet. And I said, well, do you have some of the deposit? And she said, yeah, I've got about half of it. Her language is all the time, I don't have the deposit. I don't have the deposit. She has half the deposit already. Can you feel the difference?
Yeah, I can.
It's literally, I mean, it's such a small thing, but when you start to get a bit more advanced, it's these small things that really make a difference. That's what I notice. And we do have to be more precise. And we need to be more precise. Like, I have to be very, very light to ask for anything. I remember once, this was quite a few years ago, I was running a retreat about money. And I think I just moved into a new house that was rather expensive, rent. And I realized the first weekend that I was actually short of money to pay the rent. I couldn't believe it. And I was in this retreat and I thought, help, I've got to do something. I didn't have any time to do anything because I had people there. And I just sat in the retreat and I said, please pay this for me. And half an hour later, I had somebody paid for something double what they were supposed to pay intentionally. They knew it was double. Problem was solved. So I have found a way, but I can't. Somebody said to me the other day, somebody who bought my book, well, is she a billionaire? No, I'm not a billionaire. Okay. I haven't found the way to be that good at it. I'm learning how to do it too. And I think we each have our own challenges and our own blockages and background stories and all of that. So I don't judge myself or anybody for where we are. I just know that life always brings me my next step and I need to face it. But what I do is I just very, very lightly, almost like casually, I just say, oh, please sort this out for me, or please pay this bill. I don't say, please give me the money. It doesn't work for me. I say, please pay it. Please buy that house. If it's something very big, it's not always easy to connect with it. It's just like, nah, I can't possibly believe that. Now, there can be a certain kind of naivety where it does actually work. Some people can do that. Most of us are too clever and too mental to be able to do that. So then you could set up a system where you're constantly putting money somewhere, like, you're going to put 20,000 a month into your house thing or whatever. And that might be more than you're used to putting aside, but that becomes more manageable. It's like, okay, an extra 20,000, I can do that. So you have to pace it. It's really important, I've found, to grow your confidence by just little stretches. Very big stretches tend to leave us a kind of missing something for too long. And then we live in the, I haven't got there yet, I haven't got there yet, I haven't got there yet. So always counting your wins, always appreciating every little bit that comes in. Always just little stretches. It's like little tests. And so you learn your own language with money. And sometimes, quite frankly, it seems like life has another plan. And I do it all right. I do everything that I've learned to do. And it doesn't work. And I think, well, this is really unfair. All those thoughts come in. But once I get through whatever that particular situation is, contraction, I realize, oh my goodness, there was something much bigger that I gained from that situation, far more important. So I notice that I'm always sort of being stretched as well. That might be partly to do with my own nature. Maybe I like that. But every time I get a certain capability, it feels like it's put to really good use. And then it's like, okay, no, it's not time for something else.
Yeah. There's a saying, your life is determined by the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. I love that saying. Because I think about when you're talking about it, you're trying to tune into, this is what I heard. You're trying to tune into the best practical way for you to ask the question that delivers what you want delivered. I love what you said, because I told you in the beginning, I'm gonna play the cynic a couple of times. And one of the things I was going to ask is, why aren't you the richest woman in the world? And I think you answered that really well. Like, there's people that teach how to create courses, online courses, and they do well with that, but they're not the most successful online course creator in the world, but they've had success in that regard. And I think that's a really fair way of putting it. But the quality of questions applies in so many ways. As parents, like, there's many different ways, that we try to have conversations with our kids, and trying to find the right way of asking the question as opposed to stating the thing, to get them to think about or whatever. And I think it's sort of the same thing here. You even ask yourself questions. Robert Kiyosaki famously said, I don't say I can't afford it. I ask, how can I afford it? And that allows me to, start to think and open my mind to the possibilities. And I hear that with what you're saying. So I think that's really important. Yeah.
Exactly. To me, it's questions and requests. You can request directly and you can ask questions. And good questions produce good answers. Good requests produce good solutions.
One of the things that you've done in this interview for me, that I self-imposed on myself in the book that you've relieved, is that it has to be perfect. Like, if I falter, if I waver, if I said bring me $816 and tomorrow I say $815, connection broken, gone, you're unable to manifest money for the rest of your life. That was the thing. Like, oh my God, it feels like such pressure to make this request. But I love what you said. It's like with my kids, right? Like I might ask a question a certain way and it might be a great question, but it didn't land for them. So I have to figure out another way to ask that question for the interaction to open up. And that's what you're talking about. That's what you're essentially practicing.
That's such a good description, because to me, money is an aspect of life, and kids, they're part of life. You just cannot make kids do the thing in the way that you think they should, because they're human beings, they're alive, and they're a complete entity in their own right. And money is kind of like that. And so if we can treat it as something that's alive and constantly moving and really an aspect of life, then we approach it with the right attitude, which is curiosity and openness and receptivity, rather than seeing it as something that can be used to control, sometimes even to dominate and to kind of deal with fear. Where once we get into that fear cycle, everything starts to go downhill. So it's this aliveness. That's what it brought out for me. Like, learning about money in this way brought out a kind of aliveness in my life and a much more engaged way of living life. And it's, in a way, I can say it's much more challenging, but it feels like that's what I came here for. It's the challenge that I actually am alive for, rather than the challenges that life chucks at you, that just can make it feel very difficult. So it is part of that kind of growing yourself, like really being willing always to go into new territory, always being willing to say, well, how can I do this differently? How do I not be stuck here? Just like with the Robert Kiyosaki question, to be able to do that over and over and over and over again, that changes the essence of you from the inside, and that changes the quality of your life. And then we start to talk about, I think, real wealth, which is about far more than just money.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see this entire episode, just click or tap here. If you want to see another clip from this channel, click or tap right here.